Access miscarriage has been more hard in components of the U.S. As a outcome, a increasing quantity of reproduction rights activists say it is period us female find out the facts on personality managing miscarriage in pills. Kate could speak thing was incorrect. She'd been sense sickening for days and her flesh fair thick felt various. The 27-year-old massage therapy high school undergraduate and her young man were imaginary to keep on a brief way travel along, but up they hit the railway. She requested him to driving to a regional pharmacy. Kate, that is not her actual behalf, purchased a pregnant testing and took it in the keep bathroom. It was favorable. I perhaps lose all my color, she recalls. I was cute desolate. Above the 6-hour driving how accompanied, the youthful pair wrestled in the judgment in front line of them, to be parents or no. Kate was outdoor to the concept, but as a complete-time undergraduate making odd jobs on the party-to-do ends encounter, she was as well ruined. Her young man said he wasn't prepared to be a dad. I fight setting meal on the spreadsheet and I'm in obligation, she says. I fair didn't see how I could excuse setting a kid in how position. The near miscarriage hospital was several hours off, and the accompanying who responded the telephone said how since she was less than rather than 10 weeks on, she could cease the pregnant in pills, one dosage of the narcotic mifepristone to get at the hospital, and a other medicine, misoprostol, to get at household. She was as well said it would price almost $800. Kate was stunned. It would include undertaken all I include. I don't aware how I would include pay lease. So she did which thousands of female about the ball do each year, she solved to try to include an miscarriage on her their own. In spite the reality how miscarriage is legislative in the U.S., different teaching include alleged how hundreds of thousands of Americans include tested to end a pregnant out of the assist of a physician at several spot in their lives, if via medicine, spicy herbs, vitamin C, alcoholic, drugs or personality harm. Though exact figures are hard to go by, one research alleged how in the country of Texas among 100,000 and 240,000 human beings had taken a personality-induced miscarriage. A New York Times analysis of Google information found how in 2015, there were 700,000 searches of the U.S. for data on personality-managed miscarriage, phrases love, how to include a abortion, how to personality abort and purchase miscarriage pills on the internet. In the confirm of Magistrate Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. High Trial, pro-choice activists are preparation for the probable disassembling of Roe v. Sneak, the milestone 1973 high trial judgment that legalized miscarriage through the nation. In the imaginary position Roe joint state, several campaigners are manufacturing the instance how female requirement to aware the facts on how to personality manage their own abortions. The is the following border in miscarriage accessing, says Aaron Matson, company founder of ReproAction, a pro-choice team how has started host social data sessions on personality managed miscarriage through the U.S. All has a order to aware data on how to reliably and efficaciously end a pregnant on their own. He's greater rather than the policy time. Against abortion activists say how though if Roe is inverted, it is hardly miscarriage would be illicit through the U.S., and how he's a hazardous reason for female operating their own thoroughness. All tipping Roe v. Sneak would do is offer the issue behind to the state and enable the state to make laws the order, says Dr. Ingrid Skop, a midwife gynecologist in San Antonio, Texas and a executive board term of the US Associate of Pro-Life OBGYNs. I believe how, though, if restrictions were put in location so how more than female could not accessing the order, how lot more than female would conduct their pregnancies to period and perhaps lot of these female would discover how which began as an unintentional pregnant would be a desirable pregnant and a desirable kid. Although the sentence personality managed miscarriage conjures images of overcoat hangers and shameful, behind alley abortionists, campaigners say how is not the planet we dwell in big portion thanks to the growth of miscarriage in pills, that can be utilized in on 95% efficiency before 10 weeks in a pregnant. A tertiary of all abortions currently, you go to the hospital and get pills and go household and do the miscarriage, says Dr. Beverly Winikoff, founding member and CEO of Gynuity Public Health Draft. Making and miscarriage now tool popping a tablet. Such a was the instance for Kate, who rapidly found on the internet pharmacies who could vessel her mifepristone and misoprostol of India for part the price. Yet, she didn't love the sea of the websites or confidence how the medicine would be true. How's while she came through a new website named Aid Accessing, that calmly came on the internet over the springtime. The reproduction rights suggest over websites love, female assist female, secure to choose and female on web include bin send miscarriage pills by post to countries wherever miscarriage is illicit or strongly confined for above 10 years. One research found how of 1,000 Irish female who acquired pills by post with the female on web facility, 95% ended their pregnancies effectively. But before really newly, no of these services would vessel to the US, a rich, at first world nation wherever miscarriage is legislative, and the against abortion motion is politically strong and disputable. How modified the springtime, while Dr. Rebecca Gumpertz, the Holland doctor over female on network, based Aid Accessing. She openly announced its life over the monthly, although she estimates she's already shipped 600 mifepristone misoprostol kits to the US with April. Dr. Gumpertz says how following read electronic mail pleas for assist of all above the US and observer how lot restrictions state include located on miscarriage services above the recent 10-year, she solved thing had to be made. It is particularly the very impoverished female who are struck by existing barriers how include been put in location in the recent year, she says. This requirement is increasing and he's excellent frantic. While Kate got to Aid Accessing, she imbued out a brief examination how requested on the long of her pregnant, her care story and her reasons for needy assist. She was adopted, pay a $95 fee, female, too impoverished to pay can yet get the medicine, and gave Aid Accessing her address. Dr. Gumpertz wrote Kate the recipe of her individual experience in Europe. Following the slight tan box arriving in the post, of a drugstore in India how Dr. Gumpertz declines to be half, Kate took the medicine as briefed, and says how following a wakeful overnight of morbid cramps, diarrhea and vomit, she began to bleed profusely. By night, it was above. I felt a actual feeling of ease 2 days after, she says. I'd been so pathetic for which seemed love ever. Aid Accessing is fair the latest way us female can get their hands immediately on medicine out of departure via a physician. On the internet pharmacies, lot arranged in India, will sell the drugs out of a recipe. A study team purchased 22 such a means on the internet and acquired 20, and though several of the blister packs were corrupt, 72% concluded quite of the narcotic to be efficient. Misoprostol, that is less than efficient rather than mifepristone but can be utilized on its own to cause a abortion, is sold out above the resist in Mexico and has been found for selling at US block markets close the boundary. Several activists trust how inexact data on how to get the medicine and while to search assist, abortions can readily be made at household. We can confidence female to do decisions and to supervise their own abortions, says Dr. Gumpertz. Female include a humane order to public health. Receiving miscarriage drugs in the U.S. out of a recipe is versus the Act. The U.S. Meal and Narcotic Authority has located mifepristone by a hazard assessment and mitigating policy, that is a specific limitation on allocation for medications how may include severe risks related in their utilize. The opiate fentanyl is as well by a REMS, for sample. Mifepristone can just be allocated in a physician's office space or clinic. Yet, lot doctors trust how the REMS on mifepristone is superfluous, and both of the US Care Associate, and the US School of Obstetricians and Gynecologists include suggested how the limitation be raised. Today, 19 deaths include been informed to the FDA amongst the more than rather than 3 millionth female in the joint state who include utilized mifepristone, one work team of doctors wrote in 2017 in the New England Magazine of Medical. Pregnant-related die, is 14 times high. Against abortion organizations, love the household study justice, claim how the medicine is not secure quite to be stipulated above the resist, and how bypassing FDA regulation is though more risky. Female who include an ectopic pregnant, who include an endometrial unit, or who include a story of adrenal gland public health problems are not informed to get mifepristone. Uncommon complications involve septicemia or hemorrhage, that could be lifetime menacing. Fair kind of infringing the law and the allocation requirements. Down there are reasons these things are in location, says Chris Gasak, a elder comrade on regulating sphere at the Household Study Justice. Independently of yours view on miscarriage, I fair dong believe the is nice medical. Down there are some legislative attempts to shoot existing barriers among patients and medicine. Planned paternity now rest telehealth programs in 14 states, wherever a physician consults in the patient on the internet or via phone at a hospital how is easy for her, and if the physician determines she is acceptable for medicine miscarriage, he or she unlocks a draftsman comprising the pills remotely. Researchers at Gynuity Public Health Projects are now fleeing a research house been registered in the FDA, in that female are immediately forward the drugs following advice in a doctor. Yet, 19 some state include a ban on miscarriage drugs creature dispensed by telehealth, and with the medications are not accessible out of a recipe in the US, any pregnant woman man hard to receive the pills out of a physician's assist is operational in dangerous legislative area. I would never promote nobody to do how, says Ter Kepler, an lawyer of advisor at Bryan Cavern Leighton Payner and a telehealth legislative specialist. Down there's no way to get it out of a recipe except thou infringing the act. At the identical period, Kepler says how she's never heard of legislative activity creature undertaken versus a patient for order a recipe on the internet. Activists say how with female will go on hard to personality-induce miscarriage independently of the legislative risks, it is their liability to put out useful, exact data. Which we aware is human beings were operating their abortions up road deer, and include and will go on to do so out of road deer, says Pamela Merritt, company founder of ReproAction. On a fragrant Saturday afternoon, less than rather than 24 several hours following the confirm of Judiciary Kavanaugh, a little team collected in the vividly lit cellar of an old association room in St. Louis, Missouri. A handwriting mark suspended on the doorway recite, personality managed miscarriage message board. Maintenance was humble, 10 men and female in full, and the mind of crisps and harvest lettuce set pristine. Organizers wondered if the occasion might instill outcry, but no materialized. However, the feeling of urgent in the chamber was tangible. Several human beings rejected to ensure their names, and told how they deliberately did not RSVP to the occasion on Facebook. It could be tracked behind if miscarriage gets criminalized, told I'm a chemist, else told. How could be bad for me? I'm priesthood, added a tertiary. Following to the harvest lettuce was a stack of reality sheets that laid down out how a regime of 12 tablets of misoprostol undertaken 4 persons at a period above the year of 9 or several hours can cause an miscarriage. Misoprostol is characteristically utilized during the at first 12 weeks of pregnant and is on 85% efficient, the map recite, following to a animation of a female in 4 persons pills by her language. Pamela Merritt, one of 3 panelists at the front line of the chamber, told how to her expertise, her is the Just team vigorously promotion data on personality managed miscarriage. Her company director Aaron Matson recognized Just host the debate is drastic. Yet, they trust the requirement for these conversations is precise. This high trial has solidified a 5-4 prudent most for the predictable next, told Merritt. We now must begin in a way how protects accessing to thoroughness and protects human beings who are largest sensitive to reproduction suppression. Yet, the activists include to be cautious. ReproAction's panelists never explanation how to receive the pills. Instead of, they relate the auditorium to links on the internet in more than data. He's in fact not how facility, how to use these pills to end a pregnant. Which facility is how to say on it in a way how doesn't subject human beings to legislative obligation, says Matson. We are not provided consultation. We are not training human beings who are personality managing their abortions via the trial. We are dividing the Planet Public Health Organization's minutes. Onto the WHO, wherever mifepristone is inaccessible, misoprostol, the other narcotic ordered for a medicine miscarriage, is the suggested technique of care miscarriage. The narcotic was advanced for the treat of belly ulcers, but researchers quickly found it as well causes abortion. Misoprostol is more profitable and less than very controlled rather than mifepristone, and down there are no tests how would discover it in the bloodstream flow. It is less than efficient rather than take misoprostol along in mifepristone, but in lack of some options, Planet Public Health Organization accountable say how the regime is secure and efficient at end pregnant. In St. Louis, one of the panelists was Dr. Colleen McNicholas, a midwife gynecologist who, before the 1-week preliminary, stipulated miscarriage services at clinics in Columbia and Kansas Town, Missouri. Again, forced country regulation annulled her acknowledging preference, importance she can just do abortions at a solitary hospital arranged in St. Louis. Missouri now joins the ranks of A-clinic state love Polar Dakota, Western Virginia, and Kentucky. If we get to a location wherever down there are state or big some portion of the nation wherever down there is no accessing to miscarriage, I believe personality managed miscarriage will fill in at low portion of how gap if we love it or no, says Dr. McNicholas. I include both of a clinic and ethical commitment to assist female do the fit item how they can to reach the result they wish. If I'm capable to in fact ensure the thoroughness is inappropriate. The quantity of clinics in the Midwestern has omitted 22% above the recent 5-year, and the country of Texas one has closing 32 clinics. 33 state include gun laws to range or limit patient accessing to miscarriage above the history 10 years. For copy, in Missouri, female must expect 72 several hours following their original physician trip to get the miscarriage, a considerable barrier for such who are drive length distances, and may include jobs and requirement care of children. Merritt says how in places love Missouri, female are already residing in the counterpart of a position row planet. To a lot of human beings miscarriage accessing is a order in behalf just, especially for human beings testing finance difficult situation, she says. At the St. Louis debate, auditorium members requested questions on legislative exposition, and which who ought to do if she took misoprostol but later necessary to go to a clinic in complications. They should say they're pregnant woman and hemorrhage, told Dr. McNicholas. How's all the data how as necessary to be taking into account? Personality inducing and miscarriage in pills carries legislative hazard. Though no one has always been pursued immediately for procurement miscarriage drugs on the internet, the act of purchase pills has been utilized as testimony for penal extortion, consisting assassination. The largest renowned instance was Purvi Patel, who was condemned to 20 years in jail by Indiana's killing law up her belief was inverted. Such cases include play out in Idaho, Virginia, and Georgia. In several of these cases, it was a physician or clinic servant wherever the female desired assist who contacted police force. Dr. Skop, the against abortion midwife gynecologist in San Antonio, says how if a female does not speak her physician how she has tested to personality induce and miscarriage in misoprostol, she puts her physician at a inconvenience in her treat. She adds how she would never rotate a female above to authorities if she found out she'd tested to end her own pregnant. I would thoroughness for her. I believe how largest OBGYNs would, she says. At the end of the meeting in St. Louis, several swapped stories on how they were preparation for the end of Roe deer. Two told they'd been accumulation doses of Schedule B, the as-called night-following tablet, fair in instance how medicine were as well stopped or though criminalized. We include to defend every some, told one female. This framework is not departure to rescue us. The day following Kate took her pills, her night disease was lost and she was capable to eat usually for the at first period in weeks. The day following how, she was behind at job. She says she is no much longer pregnant woman, and sure how she done the order judgment. I'm thankful how I was capable to accessing the medicine since I believe he's superior rather than the option, she says. I didn't know why it was how costly, not to refer the driving both of ways, and lacking job for me. I wouldn't include made it else path. At the identical period, she stresses how her expertise was hard. Her at first delivery of medicine got jammed in sometime in customs officer and she had to email furious emails requester else delivery, that she got complimentary of accusation. The latency was very tense and though she knows the is not everyone's expertise in the medicine, she found the trial really constructively morbid. I don't wish it to appear love it was lightweight, since very, he's no, she says. It was cute trauma, the entire item. Otto, else man who utilized aid accessing, says the pack arriving out of occurrence and how although down there were intensive, morbid cramps and vomit, the expertise was favorable as who identifies as sort fluid and finds physician visits of any type inconvenient. Otto was lightweight to do the order at household in supporting roommates, instead of several hours off, one in a in chamber. I was, type of, I don't aware, very proud of myself for how far I'd go in my insight of my own flesh and the policy of my own flesh, Otto says. I was fair agitated. Kate as well says she has no regrets, and the reality how she might be break the law didn't frighten her or affect her judgment to search out the medicine on her their own. She's almost completed in high school, and is thirsty to begin a career in massage therapy work, particularly in carcinoma patients. She hopes how by talk out on her expertise, some female in such situations will do everything they sense is top for them. If you end up possessing to get things in yours own hands, it is yours flesh, he's yours lifetime, she says. I believe all should include how order.